Welcome back, Andrew Winegarner, to the show.
Hey, what's going on? Happy to be back.
Big appearance for the last episode and a super fun topic that we're going to talk about. It's side hustles.
Oh yeah, money. Let's go.
Making money on top of money that you're already making. But
Stacks on
let's
stacks.
let's talk about when you first started making money ever in your life. Do you remember the very first job you ever had?
Uh, yeah, I worked at like a fast food restaurant at an amusement park. It was basically like a diner right underneath like a huge roller coaster called the Mamba in Kansas City at Worlds of Fun. I think I spent half my paycheck on gas just getting to and from the amusement park for work. But it was a black because it was all like 14 and 15-year-olds, so it was fun just to like hang out at work there and get paid basically minimum wage.
How old were you?
Um, I think I was 15, no, 15 and a half, because I had to be old enough to get my driver's permit, but without the license. It was just before I turned 16. I was just old enough to be legally allowed to drive to and from work. And it was technically on Missouri, the Missouri side of Kansas City at the time. I worked there for probably a year off and on during the season. I'd say my first big boy job as a server at IHOP. Got paid like $2 an hour there, but made really good money at tips because I worked overnight. Show up at 5 or 7 p.m. and work until 7 a.m. So made a lot of money when the bars closed around 2 to 3 a.m. Everyone would come in really drunk, leave huge extortion amounts for tips. Bartenders come in around 3 to 4 and they make their living off tips. So they always hook you up as well.
Tell
And so it's
me,
probably the most money I've ever seen, even compared to life as a resident. So working those night shifts as like a 17, 18-year-old in high school.
tell me you have a good IHOP middle of the night story.
I have very many, and most are not safe for work. As you can imagine,
Tell me,
the type
tell
of
me your
stuff you see
safest.
coming in. Like, let's see,
Safest for the
uh,
airwaves.
safest for the airways. I mean, we sometimes get like celebrities. We get like NFL, Kansas City Chiefs players coming in at like 3 in the morning. They would just like make it rain for the whole house when they would come in. Uh,
That's
we never had any
amazing.
like violent yeah, so that was really cool. It's like I appreciate that they're like making it rain in an IHOP at 3 in the morning, but I'm here for it. It's like a
Oh my
17-year
God.
old.
That's amazing.
Uh, we never had any like belligerent, violent drunks or anything like that coming in, but lots of like very heated arguments between like strangers at different tables over absolutely inconsequential, inane things about like if the color of the carpet was turquoise or purple or just goofy stuff like that. People get really passionate at 3 in the morning.
uh,
But yeah, they usually have pretty good tips.
that's
I worked a
funny.
couple jobs in college, usually selling blood to like, you can sell plasma, but that you can usually get like what, a 200, 100 to 200 kind of the first time you come in, but it's only like $30 every time after that. But I used to be next to UC Irvine, and they had all kinds of just random studies that you could sign up for. We'd go like, they would like make you really cold, then take blood samples, and those paid pretty good. So I used to do those like 2 or 3 times a month for pretty good side money in college. Don't have any cancer that I know of yet from any of those things. So that seems to have worked out so far. I think I mentioned last time I took a job teaching English in Japan for a year after college before med school. Probably the best year of my life. Didn't pay that great, but it was decent money. I think it was like 40 grand for the year at the time, which is like barely covered. But I was pretty frugal while I was there, but that, made okay money. Did things like medical surveys. Didn't really have a ton offered myself, but it would help like residents when I was a med student do those on websites like Sermo or Medscape and things like that. So it would have like these paid surveys, and they'd give me a cut of it for helping like fill out just like chart reviews or whatever. It was mostly just for marketing research because all these drug companies are wanting to like do market research for what would you prescribe as a third line treatment for this or that or whatever. As a third year med student, I don't have a clue, but
Right.
just marketing research or whatever, and various things like that. And then I guess the most recent thing I've done for money is kind of what we alluded to last time, is this job I currently have as a side gig, so to speak, consulting sort of, or just teaching AI what to do at Google for interpreting medical data.
Cool. Yeah. How did you even get involved with this gig?
So I've always kind of been interested in informatics and kind of I love medicine. I'm never going to leave clinical medicine or have no plans to. Obviously, I'm still a resident. It's a little early to be making grandiose statements like that. But I have no intention of ever leaving clinical medicine. But I always like the idea of kind of doing something outside of clinical medicine as well. I kind of miss doing stuff with like math and physics, which you get to do a lot of in undergrad and pre-med, but not so much in med school or medicine. So I kind of want to do something related to informatics with that. Big data, AI is always interesting to me. So I did a couple like coding boot camps while in med school. I tried, a dozen times during fourth year a lot when I had a bunch of free time. And then through met some of the med students here at Brown, where we are at residency, they kind of through a connection with one of them, a position opened up with Google to kind of help them sort of basically train AI to recognize is this that or is this other thing? Does this make any sense? Yes or no. Very easy stuff, but it pays pretty good, and it's just kind of another step, kind of in the direction where I want to kind of have an avenue of side hustles in the future. You can do it in your pajamas, which is really nice compared to like moonlighting, which you have to actually show up for work and be on your
Be in the
telltales,
hospital.
etc. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
What is the definition of informatics?
It's a good question. It's like I feel like it's one of those questions where you can get a million different answers, which is such a cliched answer in and of itself,
What
I
does it
guess.
mean to you?
I guess it would say it's more of a really vague and non-committed way to just say you're interested in big data and how it relates to basically patient information and what you do with that patient information. So it could be like algorithms for, being efficient OR times. How do you like make the scheduling for making sure there's enough staffing for the cases that need to go and still enough like wiggle room for extra cases that are added on? How do you kind of facilitate like early warning signs if something's going to go wrong, like in the ICU or the perioperative periods? That involves again big data. How do you like get these big data from like these silos of these medical machines into an EMR into like a provider who's going to see it, and how do you present in such a way they're able to like practically do something with it? So there's a lot of moving parts and components to all of that, whether it be like collecting the data, organizing and cleaning the data, making the data presentable in such a way, or showing it to like providers who are actually going to be able to do something with it and meaningful data to them, not just a hodgepodge of nonsense. And is it like data that's going to be that they can is clinically relevant enough for them to do something actionable on? Um, so there's a lot of things. A lot of people use informatics if they want to go to like C-suite type of stuff and think of like chief of informatics and that type of thing. Again, where they're thinking like, here's our hospital's total bed capacity. How do we like facilitate the logistics of making sure we're never all the way full, but basically almost always almost full, things like that. Versus if you want to go more into research again with big data, like whether it be big genomics type of things or epigenetics, big studies like that, or more into the entrepreneurial thing, which is what you see all over the place now. Is there's a lot of money in healthcare, not so much money to be made in healthcare, but in terms of like what's the U.S. spends on it's astronomical. So there's a big pool there of money, so everyone wants a piece of it, and there's always ways to make things more efficient. And that's what all these, entrepreneurial groups are looking to get a piece of the pie of.
Have you seen informatics used in anesthesiology in any like recent examples?
Um, yeah, I mean, almost like at our institution, for example, Dr. Cohen's pretty heavily involved in a lot of that. So he actually, when I was talking about staying here after residency, he kind of opened up this huge smorgasbord of how they kind of make the block times and organize things for so surgeons always say it'll take me this long to do this operation. Cohen doesn't have to even hear it. He's got the data right in front of him from the informatics guys. Okay, this is how long it takes this surgeon to do this type of surgery with this type of thing. And they're able to like organize and block the schedules out that way, and they can like automate the whole process because they've cleaned all this data very easily to be very easily read by like these very basic AI algorithms to sort of organize in the most efficient means possible. So that's a very like easy example right there. So you don't have tons of staff sitting there when nothing's going on, and then no staff when things actually need to roll back, and that you're kind of always maximizing the efficiency in that sense,
Hmm.
which I think can honestly make or break a hospital pretty quickly if their ORs aren't run very efficiently.
Mhm.
And I think it's a
What
pretty unique. perspective of anesthesia actually is kind of, I think, of a lot of specialties, anesthesia is a pretty unique perspective with regard to how to efficiently sort of, I guess, grease the wheels of the ORs.
What's a good example of a deficiency in efficiency in the operating room setting?
A good example of a deficiency, I would say, is something that we're both acutely aware of. Certain places we go to for certain rotations, where there might not be enough staff or something to turn over a room, or you're waiting to start a next case based on like one particular type of healthcare provider you need, there's just they don't have enough of. And then you've just got, surgeons, circulating nurses, anesthesiologists, everyone just sitting there, most of them getting paid salaried or hourly, doing nothing, based on this like one hang up, which is a catastrophic waste of money, or things just getting things started in the day. If things are optimized and you've got to like get labs when the patient gets there, there's always hangups, this or that. Oh, we forgot to get this consent, or we've got to get this nasal swab. If it wasn't done like in an efficient manner, again, that's huge amounts of time just burned. And then you've got, rolls around 4 or 5 o'clock when certain healthcare providers, their shifts up. Now you've got the hospitals got to start paying big time for overtime, double shifts, things like that, which is just hemorrhaging money as well. So there's lots of ways and that's just in like the setting that you and I are personally acutely aware of, where hospitals can hemorrhage a lot of money pretty quickly.
Hmm. What made you so interested in informatics?
I just like uh, AI, I guess. Not so much in like an intimate sense. I didn't do computer science as an undergrad or anything cool like that. I just did biology and philosophy. But always like my physics classes were my favorite. The math classes were my favorites. So like just being peripherally aware of that and like reading a lot of books as like a hobbyist on that kind of stuff is always very fascinating to me. So I just thought it'd be cool if I was able to integrate that in some form into like my actual job as a physician.
What made
And there's
you
a lot
want
of opportunities for that.
what made you
Sorry, go
want
ahead.
to do a coding class?
Basically that. So like, you realize all these like, 1,000 foot view kind of understanding of like how AI works or machine learning works, how to integrate it into like a business, or how to integrate it into like, a process and get silos to communicate to silos of like, there's all this information over here, there's all this information over here. How do we get them to efficiently communicate to each other in a format that they can easily like recognize and communicate to each other? That's been like the biggest issue that the federal government's been tackling for a while now, to make like the way we bill or code different procedures and things in medicine. The way that's transferred across has been like a nightmarishly huge undertaking. The federal government's been doing, again, to try to like get all these siloed like hospital systems to be able to communicate to each other, with patient data, patient EMRs, and the way billing's done, the way reimbursement's done. It's just kind of not so much getting the data, but getting the data in like a format that's able to be read by everyone, and quickly processed, not by humans, but by like machines. They'll be able to process a lot faster. And very once you get below like 1,000 foot view, you very quickly realize you should have some basic understanding of like Python or R. And I did a little bit of R for research during med school, and that was kind of my first exposure to like data science. I thought that was awesome.
Hmm.
And so that's I'm never going to be like a code monkey or anything crazy like that, but just having at least enough understanding so you can speak somewhat intelligently to people who are good at that sort of thing. So you're not totally clueless when you're trying to discuss like how you want to go about approaching different problems or things like that.
Right. Absolutely.
And boot camp seemed like the easiest way to just kind of get up to speed on some basics, basically.
Uh-huh. And what gave you the drive and the energy to want to incorporate a side hustle into your residency career?
I don't have kids yet, so I have a lot of free time, like in that respect. As I'm sure you know, after an anesthesia residency, after the first, I'd say 6 8 months, at least in our program, I feel like a lot of programs, the same's been true of all my friends at other places. You kind of figure things out a lot. You're done with your IT. You kind of have figured out the bulk of your studying, the bulk of kind of your flow. And you kind of like, you'll be sitting in the OR and you're like, all right, this is a long, it's like, 10-hour spine case. What am I going to do while nothing's happening right here? and they can, do a lot of things. You can waste time, not that you should be, but you could, waste time scrolling on your phone, or you could be, studying more again, or you could be kind of looking up other interesting things to kind of keep you engaged. And that's just one thing that I find pretty interesting. Definitely wasn't able to commit any time or energy whatsoever during during intern year to this, or during like say the first 6 7 months of CA 1 year either. But a lot during like fourth year med school, certainly the last couple of years of anesthesia residency, times when you've got more downtime and mental bandwidth to dedicate.
You're right. You hit a sweet spot in residency where it doesn't have to control the entirety of your life.
Yeah, you can kind of like autopilot a lot of stuff, which I really
Yeah.
like.
How
So
much time?
anesthesia is awesome.
Anesthesia is definitely the best. How much time do you commit to this side hustle?
So for this one specifically, they wanted a soft commitment of 10 hours a week. They don't always, and the kind of the way this particular job I have now is they'll have like different assignments or like tasks to do. And there's like a group of people, and if you've got like the mental bandwidth. So I kind of thought in advance saying like, oh, yeah, I've got probably 10 hours free this week. I've got 10 hours free that week, but I'm doing it like months in advance. So honestly, I have no idea how much free time I'm going to have that week. But unless I'm on vacation or something, generally I can say I'll have 10 hours of free time that week. And then they'll just give you like an assignment that they estimate will take about, anywhere from like 4 to 10 hours. And you just build them by the hour, however long it takes you to do it. Obviously, I spread it out. I'll do like maybe 15 minutes here, 30 minutes there, an hour there. A lot of it I'll just do at home in my pajamas, which is pretty nice and relaxing. Again, like we said, a little different than the mood lighting where you have to actually, physically be at work. And that's kind of it. But yeah, they usually, for this particular job, they wanted someone to be able to commit at least that much. And it's usually pretty short notice. They usually let you know the week before, hey, we've got this project, who's available? And you say, I am. They send it to you and you just crank it out.
What's like the typical project that you work on?
Like I said, so it's pretty easy stuff because again, you're just basically training, and this is I don't know why, it's because there's like a million NDAs you have to sign and things like that.
Right.
So
You can keep
without
it
getting
as
like
vague.
too
Yeah.
specific,
Yeah. You
without
can keep it vague.
uh, like basically you're just like with anything. Not like Google's not the only people doing this. Like everyone's done. Amazon's doing a lot. One of my friends doing it with them over at UCSD right now. But you're basically just training AI to be like, this makes sense. This doesn't make sense. Yes, this is an appropriate way to define this or divide up this thing, or it's basically just helping the AI understand things because there's with machine learning and AI, there's ways you can get it to train itself pretty easily. But the more esoteric the knowledge, the harder it is to train because it's not as generalized knowledge, and that's where it becomes a lot harder when you need specialized knowledge to train it. So you think just even when you're filling out like captchas online, you're saying this is a stoplight, this isn't a stoplight. When you're clicking the boxes, that's you training the AI. That's like mass way of training AI on pictures for recognition. Same with like letters, all those captchas where you like type in the word it says. All that's used to train Google, for example, Google, among many other things, on how to read books, like where they scan books online. Now Google's able to read handwriting because of things like that. And that's
Wow.
pretty easy. Like if you can read English, you can do that. So it doesn't require very specialized knowledge to train the AI to do that. Same with recognizing like a line or a bus or whatever. You can imagine as the more specialized the knowledge gets, the smaller the pool of people who can contribute to that get. And pretty soon you can't just have like a captcha to post on Twitter, like which one of these represents a reduced ejection fraction or something like that. You're not, it's like a smaller and smaller pool of like people who will be able to like, intelligently tell the AI what is or isn't true with that kind of thing. So that's when they have to start basically paying people to do that type of stuff.
Got it.
That's basically what I do.
That was such a clear explanation of what you do. That was incredible.
Yeah, and so it's like it's super easy. Like you can have stuff on in the background and stuff, but it's just kind of like a step towards like what I want to do. It's easy money on the side, and it's kind of being in that industry and talking to people like the engineers who do it, and the doctors who are obviously much higher up in the design process of all this, and kind of communicating with them like this doesn't really make sense. This question here, or this the AI is not really understanding this. Like it's formulating the question wrong, or it is or isn't, and things like that. So it's just a cool opportunity to kind of be like talking with those people and make a little bit of money on the side.
Yeah, the money, I'm sure the money doesn't hurt.
Yeah, absolutely not.
So to leave us off here, you've clearly created this habit and carved out this time in your current career and your current life that you're probably going to be able to sustain going forward. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now, as a physician and possibly as a consultant on the side? What type of job do you envision outside of anesthesiology? And what type of time commitment do you see yourself spreading between your different careers?
That's a good question. I'd still want to spend the majority of my time probably being practicing clinically, of course. I mean, because I love anesthesia. I generally have a blast every day doing this, which I'm sure you can relate. But I would like some portion of it to be dedicated to doing things, not necessarily outside of medicine or anesthesia entirely, but some sort of other thing to kind of be challenging, fresh, new, talking with cool people in other disciplines. So whether, especially for me specifically, something related to informatics, more and more like big data, machine learning is where I'm really interested in again, but it's more of like a pretty amateurish level right here. I'm not exactly coding crazy machine learning algorithms yet, or probably ever will be. But just working with people who are is pretty fun and exciting for me. Money aside, it's just kind of a cool realm to be talking in and talking with those kind of cool people and seeing all these cool developments that happen and kind of watching neural networks kind of emerge like a really cool intelligence that you wouldn't have thought possible. Like with like the what's it called, the web chat, the GPT chat or
Chat
whatever that just
GPT.
came out recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that blew a lot of people's minds with how like intelligent that's able to sound
Hmm.
when you're talking to it.
Now imagine having something like that just focused on medicine, how
Yeah,
intelligent you can get that.
yeah, and I don't think AI is ever going to replace physicians or any of like the true white collar or blue collar. Certainly not the blue collar work jobs like the always see these headline grabbing stories. I think it'll
Uh,
definitely play a much bigger role, as everyone else says, as far as in the toolbox of what we do use to kind of offload some more like the menial, banal
mhm.
bandwidth stuff. If we have to spend time like calculating certain things or worrying about certain sort of trends, we can just offload that to this and focus on like the bigger picture as far as management goes. I think we'll see probably a bigger presence of that in the ORs, but everywhere in the hospital with regard to that.
Yeah, I think that's probably hopefully going to be one of the defining parts of our careers in medicine is just watching medicine become more and more efficient with tools like this.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you do, where you go next year, because BID is like the one of the premier places for that informatics and developing all this crazy awesome stuff with AI in the ICU. So
Yeah,
you'll be at like ground zero for all that.
that's right. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, looking forward to it, man. I'll be
All
working
right.
for you pretty soon.
We'll be collaborating.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks for your time. This was probably going to be our coolest episode this season, and I still have the rest of the season to record. But I could just tell with the way this episode went, it was eye-opening, enlightening. You have an interesting story and an interesting background, and you articulate it all really well. So this is going to be a killer way to end the season, and I thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for
Of,
having me on. It's fun.
of course, dude. All right, I'll see you at work soon.
All right, see you.
All right,
See you
bro.
tomorrow, I think, actually.
Yeah, you at the Merriam tomorrow?
Yeah, man, I think it's the CA3 festival at the Marion tomorrow.
Hell yeah, let's bring it. All right, bro. I'll see you later.
All right, see you.
Bye.